Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Jack, Conrad, 45, Week 7 review of what happened in the Premier League. Halloween did not disappoint, some strangeness that took place, and we were given an hour back, but then had to get up an hour earlier to watch these matches again. It was a nice 1 week window of 8 o'clock matches versus 7 a.m. matches here in the United States. First up, Sheffield United and Man City. City looked like they've figured out their defensive situation. Walker, Diaz, Laporte, Cancelo, good going forward, especially if that center back pairing can remain healthy. That means Sheffield still sit on 3 goals for the season and 1 point. You turn the ball over that much to a City team that passes the ball like they were passing the ball, and and that back line gave Rodri a chance to move around and really just take over.
Yeah, this was not a great City performance, and they were still able to grind out a win. That's a great sign for them going forward. For Sheffield United, we've mentioned it countless times. Brewster, we like him, but they need goals. They're struggling to score. No team, you don't want to moan about how unfortunate they are, but no team has a bigger difference between their expected points, which is around 7 points they're expected to have for Sheffield United, and their actual points, which, as you mentioned, is just one solitary point. End of the day, got to put goals in the net to win games. They can't do that. And Manchester City, with their improved defense, means that when your guys like De Bruyne, Mahrez, Aguero, Sterling, all of them have off days. Ferran Torres missed a pretty good chance in the first half. When they have off days and you have such a solid defense behind you, because, again, you spend quite a lot of money, but they are quite talented players, you're very confident and you have a lot more ability to grind out these results that, like we've seen, last couple of weeks, getting some good results. Sheffield United have been bad this year. Still, 1-0 is a very good result, especially away from home.
I think Ramsdale is their lone bright spot. He really kept this thing from being 2-0, 3-0.
Yeah.
Ferran Torres looked really, really good, and Ramsdale stopped him, right? I mean, he's a winger, but they put him up top because they've got a deficiency there, and he's looked fantastic leading the line.
Aguero supposedly out through the November international window. We'll see if that's just Pep Guardiola mind games ahead of their game against Liverpool.
Yeah, I suspect big showdown this weekend. Speaking of that. Sheffield United, they 19th with 1 point. Next up, traveling to Chelsea. City home to Liverpool, 10th on 11 points after 6. Again, really just 2 points out of fourth place spots. So moving back up the table quickly where they rightfully belong. All right, next up, title holders and current first place team Liverpool home to West Ham. So Liverpool don't have Van Dijk, Thiago, Keita, Matip, Fabinho, just grinding out the points, right? West Ham, careless. Their expected goals were only 0.34 here. It felt like they had more opportunities than Liverpool. Nat Phillips with a very good performance in the back. His debut for Klopp's side looked fantastic, but questionable penalty on Salah that gave them the equalizer, and then Shaqiri and Yoda just unlocking that. I mean, the pass from Shaqiri and the movement from Yoda, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, I saw a great piece from James Pierce in The Athletic about how Nat Phillips nearly left over the summer and Shaqiri nearly left over the summer as well. And both of them stayed. Both of them played really big parts. And Shaqiri, I think he's out of the basement at Anfield. People joke that Kostas Tsimikas has replaced him as Klopp's player that he delegates for the basement. But Shaqiri is performing very well. He unlocked the game really well with his passing. And Yoda just continues to be in phenomenal form. And we talked about it when he was first signed. He was a very good signing because he was versatile. He's a Klopp signing kind of guy. And the classic, you kind of make fun of him when you sign him because it was too much or it was a poor acquisition. He's already aging incredibly well. And you mentioned the guys that they're missing. So for Liverpool, this is a great result to grind this out. West Ham had some problems, but Liverpool still did enough to get the points, because if you remove your first choice and then your second and third choice, or third and fourth choice center backs, should I say, as well as your best defensive midfielder, and then 2 of your best midfielders, that's going to impact you. Because I think if you had an ideal Liverpool side, at least in my head, the midfield trio would probably be Fabinho, Keita, Thiago. None of them are healthy right now. And you don't have Van Dijk, who's the best defender in the world. So to get these kinds of results is just big, because you can't, we mention this every week, it feels like, can't win a title in this time of the year. You can lose them. So when they look back and they say, man, we were injury ravaged in the early parts of the season, but we managed to get some good points, that's big for them. Big question mark is, can Fabinho, Matip, Keita, Thiago, can they get fit? Fabinho probably not, but can they get fit for the Manchester City match? Because that is a early title deciding match. If you can get the win there, you set a huge tempo that you can actually be, okay, we are ready to defend. We have injuries, but we're different and we have more depth than we did in previous years.
David Moyes got to be a little bit displeased. Clearly, he was upset about the penalty on Salah. Felt like he was overacting, but his side look like they're finally rounding into shape. Again, wasteful with some of their chances, but I think they have something to hang their hat on. 8 points from 7, sitting in 14th. Feel like they should be better than that. Liverpool first on 16 points from 7 matches as well. As you say, heading into that critical match against City, the Hammers will be home against Fulham, who got their first win of the season today, putting 2 past who'd they beat? I can't even remember who they played today. West Brom, thank you. God, really, somebody had to win. Really. So I was going to say, somebody had to get the points in that one. All right, next up, Aston Villa, Southampton. This match was a clear characterization of the fact that this league makes no sense right now. James Ward-Prowse, absolutely ridiculous with those free kicks. Just makes it look like anybody can do what he does. But what he does is so spectacular and so amazing. What he does, getting the ball up, down, over that wall, and then bending it into the corner where the goalkeeper just cannot possibly reach it. Yeah. Time and time again.
I remember I was watching that, and I kind of thought in my head, well, why doesn't everybody just do that? Like, that's just looks easy. Just do that every time. It's easy. It's obviously not easy, and he's a very good free kick taker. He got the assist for the first goal for Vestergaard, and they had the 2 goals to make him up 3-0 at halftime. So it was back-to-back weeks, first against Everton where they went up 2-0, had a third goal, but it was just allowed for offside. And they had another dominant first half. They'll be a little worried about the fact that they conceded 3, especially 2 very late on with the penalty, and then admittedly a very good Jack Grealish strike, which you'll probably let him take 9 times out of 10. And he just scores it. You say, okay, well, that was about it. The XG on that shot was 2%. You take your chances. He's a great player, but you take your chances.
You see what he did with he looks over this way, and the goalkeeper followed him, and he just snakes it into the lower left corner.
The technique on that was great. The free kicks technique on that was exceptional. The biggest downside for Southampton, you're doing really well. So far, you're 5th in the league. The biggest downside is Ings. Knee injury doesn't look serious. The initial scan said it wasn't serious. But obviously with a guy with a knee injury, history like him, you're a bit concerned. So he's probably not going to play their match against Newcastle. He's probably going to sit out until the end of the international break. And in terms of overperforming what they were expected to, in this game, just 0.88 XG, 4 goals. That's a remarkable ability. However, that's
not sustainable.
Not sustainable at all. No. So expect them to fall back down to earth like Aston Villa have with their 2 consecutive losses. But Southampton, I think, are going to do quite well this season. And obviously, 5th already. Even if they come back down to earth, coming back down to earth won't be falling too far from where they currently are.
2 clubs who have had some relegation challenges in the past, both sitting on 12 points for Villa, 8th. Southampton, 13, both 25% of the way to safety, right? Villa with 1 fewer match. But again, Villa next up at Arsenal. Southampton will be home to Newcastle, which will be an interesting one. 2 clubs kind of in the same ballpark right now, if you will. Next up, Newcastle, we spoke of, and Everton. James Rodriguez, Luca Digne, Richarlison, all out. This is not a deep Everton side. They can't replace that talent. Newcastle, on the other hand, get the questionable penalty yet again. We talked about one of those earlier, and then the deflection for the winner.
A lot of fortune.
A
lot of fortune involved for Newcastle. And I think Everton, I don't want to say they'll be fine with losing. You're never fine with losing. But when you mention the guys that they're missing as well, Seamus Coleman, a guy you didn't even mention. That's 2 most starting caliber fullbacks missing. One of your best forwards, Richarlison, missing. And then your best player, James Rodriguez, missing. So it's always going to be tough. And especially when there's a bit of unfortunate deflections, penalties. End of the day, Newcastle created 2.78 XG. Everton still aren't ironclad defensively. They had Olsen in net instead of Pickford. I thought he looked quite good, actually. And ultimately, I think that Everton have got a lot of things they can take from this in terms of positivity. Because if you're able to have maybe less guys suspended, less guys injured, you'll be able to get some more options. But I think a big test for them is going to be the matchup against Manchester United We'll talk about that a little bit. But if they're able to get a result there, I think that they actually were not quite such a purple patch at the beginning of the year. But if they don't get points there, if they lose a third straight on the bounce, there may be some questions on whether or not the Everton side we saw was actually new, or if it was just a, nice honeymoon, big run of form, some new good signings. And we have to give some credit to Newcastle, obviously. They created good chances and they scored goals, and they got some points, and they're doing a lot better than I expected so far this season.
Well, I think the challenge there for them is depth, right? And it's Ancelotti being in that with that club and being in that system long enough where he can bring in the players that can play the supporting roles and still execute the same plan. You compare them to their Merseyside rivals that we were talking about before the show, where Klopp's been there for 5 years and has been able to pull the second line in that can they can withstand 5 top players being out and still grind out wins. Ancelotti not yet there. I think he will get there because he's a top level manager.
Yeah.
But he just doesn't have the depth that he would like right now, and it's showing a lot earlier than I think he was anticipating. They're not this bad. They probably weren't that good as they showed in the beginning. Everton 4th with 13 points after 7 matches. Newcastle 11th with 11 points after 7. Everton, as you say, next home to Man United. Newcastle traveling to Southampton. Finally up, United and Arsenal. Party time for Arsenal. And then United just are an absolute – they're kind of all over the place. This is not the same club that won 5-0 at Leipzig, or is it? Because Leipzig were just careless, and United did the one thing that they can do, which is capitalize on mistakes and break, right? Pogba is – I don't know that he's being played properly. He was obviously out of position, and he was caught out on that run. Makes the mistake. No Donny van de Beek. Don't understand what they're going to do there. Can he and Bruno play at the same time? People say no. Arsenal, meanwhile, first Big Six win in 29 matches away over 6 years. Yeah. Dominant in midfield, which we had thought would be key in this match. They really did a good job pressing.
Interesting enough, I think if you swapped Thomas Partey and Donny van de Beek and swapped their clubs, I don't want to say they'd be better because Thomas Partey is doing great for Arsenal, but I think that it would answer the creativity question of Arsenal. They don't like to play number 10, but Van de Beek would give you a nice option from the midfield. And Manchester United needed someone, at least a tactical different fit than Fred as their defensive mid. They put the diamond again like they played against Leipzig. And it worked against Leipzig.
At least in the first half. They had to change that second half.
Exactly. But against Leipzig, it worked because there was a lot of space to work in behind. And they had center back Upamecano, who probably had a bit of a trial run for Manchester United. They're very interested in him. They had a lot more space. So Rashford getting a hat trick was great. He's a great player, but it wasn't indicative of, I think, a deeper problem at United. You can't break down sides, even though you have Bruno Fernandes as a good 10. And so the issue that I read another great article in The Athletic about the issue with focusing on number 10s. Arsenal did not do it. Versus Manchester United, they did do it. So Thomas Partey basically just kind of nullified. Him and Mohamed Al-Nani just nullified Bruno Fernandes out of the game. And so without Bruno Fernandes, there was no creativity because Pogba and McTominay as your players offering you width, that's not too great. And then Rashford and Greenwood, not the greatest options up front in terms of breaking down sides. So Arsenal structurally great defensively. They got that spot on. And I think we talked about this before recording. If Manchester United lose to Everton or don't win against Everton, they'll be at 8 or 7 points after 7 matches. Ole may be gone. It doesn't matter if they win against Istanbul. They'd have 9 points in the Champions League. They'd have less in the Premier League and over twice as many matches. And that might just be the axe for Ole. So he's really on the hot seat right now, especially after Mauricio Pochettino's Monday Night Football appearance, making the world remember, oh yeah, I exist.
I'm still here.
Agent. I cost you 0 to sign me. Except for having to fire Ole, obviously.
Yeah. So I don't know how many managers they're still paying.
Yeah, exactly. I think Arteta, he's got them on the right track. I think he's proven that he has the tactical nuance to be able to perform, and that it wasn't just a good honeymoon period after 2 losses of 1-0 to Leicester and Manchester City. So big questions for Manchester United. Next 7 days are actually going to be quite huge for the next several years of development for this club, which is quite crazy to think about. And for Arsenal, continuing on a good trajectory. They've invested far less in terms of Arteta versus Ole, but the results are far different.
Well, I think Arteta's shown some flexibility and ability and willingness to try different things with the club, and they just sat deeper and deeper and deeper as that clock kept counting up to 90 minutes. They were just happy with the Pogba gift. Like, yeah, we'll take 1-0, fine. But you're not going to score because we know you can't. So we're not going to give you the chance to break us and, catch us on the break. They're just...
And one last thing. I think it was quite painful watching some of the subs Ole made in that game because Pogba had a poor day, I think it has to be said. He conceded the penalty, and he was playing as a left winger. He's just not.
It was terrible positioning. He's terrible positioning.
He's not a left winger. Like, and you take any player, you take Van Dijk, stick him at right back, he'd probably be fine. Stick him at striker. I mean, you're wasting his talents there. I mean, you got to just get the best out of your players. Donny Van de Beek not featuring, I think, was a big question mark for me. And McTominay lasting 90 minutes.
Change something.
Scott McTominay is not the kind of guy to break down a side. He's a passion merchant. He runs around, and I forget where I saw it on Twitter, but someone said he just runs around and he fouls players that are better than him at football. And it's harsh. He's better than me, obviously.
He'd be a good player for Pep Guardiola.
He would be a great player.
Tactical foul.
But yeah, there are a lot of questions to Manchester United. Very interested to see how they handle it over the next couple of days.
Well, that'll do it for us for our Week 7 look back. Please comment. Let us know what you think. Like, and please, as we always ask, subscribe. Look for us on the Twitter at The Footy 5. For Jack, I've been Conrad. This has been The Footy 5. Take care now.